know what I got. Yeah. We all got potential. Yeah. We may not all have money, but we all got potential. Potential to be anything that we can dream. Yeah. So get ready. Here we go. Whoever dreamed that I could be a great example of what man can achieve. If he believes and pursues that dream, in time, potentially, in time, potentially. Whoever knew that I could go to any place my heart says so. I'm gonna make it deep inside, I know, in time, potentially, in time, potentially.
Nothing is impossible to them that believe.
If you believe,
conceive, achieve, and live by the dream.
live by the dream.
Walk the talk and talk the walk and mean
What you say,
Throw the old
life away,
throw the old
throw it away. 'Cause I've got
potential
to be what I dream.
what I dream.
I can see,
I can
yeah.
see.
I believe
I believe
I can be, yeah.
be.
In time, potentially, in time, potentially. Whoever knew that I could go to any place my heart says so. Gonna make it deep inside, I know, in time, potentially, in time, potentially. Nothing is impossible to them that believe. Receive, conceive, achieve, and live by the dream. Walk the talk and talk the walk and mean what you say. Throw the old life away. I've got
Potential
to be what I dream.
what I dream.
I can see it. I believe I can be
I can be.
in time, potentially. Time, potentially. In time, potentially. Oh, in time, potentially. You gotta be patient. In time, potentially. Hey Kingdom family, greetings, blessings, salutations, and welcome to another Kingdom Conversation with me, your host, Bishop Wayne Malcolm, the Business Bishop. Always excited and delighted to be a part of your life and legacy. Well, I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to our channel, and I want to encourage those of you who are yet to subscribe to go ahead and subscribe. Believe it or not, most of the people who watch this content are yet to subscribe to the channel. So just have a check right now. See if you are subscribed. If you're not, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and get those notifications because we're posting fresh content on a weekly basis. I also want to thank those of you who have liked the post, hitting that like button, and leaving a comment, specifically those of you that are leaving a comment. I read the comments. They personally encourage me and remind me that I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right things for the right people. So I want to thank those of you who have subscribed, liked, left a comment, and of course, those of you that are sharing this content with your family, friends, neighbors, and networks. By simply subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing, you are partnering with this ministry and you are making this voice and this message more findable by people like you who are looking for content like this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Listen, I have a treat for you today. Today, I'm going to take you into the world of our webinars, the world of our private webinars. So periodically, I host private webinars for members of our community, and in those webinars, I get to share a little bit more. I get to go a little bit deeper. And so I'm going to take you into those webinars in this particular season. And of course, I want to wish each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas and a happy, prosperous, productive
overflowing, bountiful, and blessed new year. But I'm going to bless you by bringing you into the world of our webinars. Now, when we finish the session, don't go, because I have some important announcements for you at the end of this particular session. Are you ready? Let's get into it right now. Romans 8:19, for the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God. So it's a good idea to read this in a number of translations. And what it pans out to is that the creation itself, the world, the planet, the universe itself, is eagerly awaiting the arrival or the birth of a new breed, eagerly awaiting the manifestation of the sons of God. And it means that the hope of all creation, the hope of the world, is the manifest sons of God. Now, I love this manifestation, right? Because this word manifestation means unveiling, revealing, making known, showing forth, right? So the hope of creation is not that God has children. It is that these children will be put on display. These sons will be manifest. These sons will be revealed. These sons are going to move and migrate from the cave to the stage. And there is a spiritual migration taking place in which believers are coming out of hiding and realizing that our calling, that our unction, that our gift and our grace should not, never not, have been confined to the four walls of a church building on a Sunday morning or on a Wednesday night or on a Saturday, whenever it is that you do church. Actually, there is a consciousness and an awakening, a renewal and a revival of believers who understand that actually they are called to the marketplace, they are called to industry, they are called to communities, they're called to cities, they're called to civic life, they are called to all of the spheres of social influence that define and shape the character and culture of nations and cities and regions. And the creation, the hope of the world, is the manifestation of these sons of God. So someone said, well, is there hope for Europe? Yes, it's the manifest sons of God. Is there hope for America? Yes, it's the manifest sons of God. Is there hope for South America? Yes, it's the manifest sons of God. Is there hope for Africa? Yes, it's the manifestation of the sons of God. It's God's people coming out of hiding, migrating from the cave to the stage, and fulfilling their purpose and destiny. Now, I can see the chat box going, so I want to see what's happening. I want to see what's happening. Yeah. All right. All right. I'm seeing some amen. I'm seeing some amens. Absolutely. This stirring that you feel within you, this appetite that you have for content like this, is in fact a spiritual migration in which believers realize that we have a role to play in society at large. And the role that we play in society at large is part of a kingdom agenda, even if it's not celebrated by religious institutions, right? So there are holy ambitions that God has planted in you like seeds. And in some contexts, you keep that in hiding because it will never be celebrated in those contexts. But in a kingdom context, not only is it celebrated, not only is it appreciated, actually, we believe that the hope of the world is in you fulfilling your destiny and your purpose. And so the earnest expectation of the creature waits for the manifestation of the sons of God. The hope of all creation is the manifest sons of God. So here's the introduction. That was a little context for the concept. The introduction is that a separation is underway. Now, there's a part of Bible prophecy that has been overlooked by some, underestimated by others. Certainly, there's not much attention paid to it, and yet it is a very consistent theme throughout any of the end of the age prophecies. And it is pointing to a separation that happens at the end of the age, a separation, a division, or a distinction that takes place. Now, some of you are already going to the wheat and the weeds. You can already see it in the parable of the wheat and the weeds, where Jesus interprets the parable and he says, the harvest is the end of the age. The harvest is the end of the age. And at the end of the age, the angels, who are the reapers, are going to separate the wheat from the weeds. Separation of wheat from weeds. And it's separation for identification. Woo! It's separation for identification. In other words, we can't see for a period of time who's a wheat, who's the weed. But at the end of the age, there'll be a separation for identification, and it will be very clear who are the wheat, who are the weeds. That's the separation. The separation isn't primarily about heaven and hell. That's not what the separation is about. The separation is fundamentally about truth versus falsehoods or the lie. It's separation. So we can see what the truth is, we can see what the lie is. It's separating the rooted from the shallow. All right. What is planted by God, what God planted versus what looks like it's planted. It's about separating true value from pure vanity, right? So certain things have true value, other things are empty and they are vanities. So in the end, we're going to see the separation of what is true value versus what is pure vanity. And it's also a separation of what is weighty versus what is empty and light. Now, I'm going to make sense of these phrases in a moment. So the global disruptions, right, in the world, whether they be political, economic, social, or religious, global disruption is not random. It's actually a revealing mechanism. And it is a form of sorting and sifting. It is a sorting process to separate, okay, wheat from weeds, wheat from chaff, good fish from bad fish, sheep from goats, wise virgins from foolish virgins, profitable servants from unprofitable servants. There is a sifting and a sorting that takes place. And the mechanism by which God does it is the very global disruption. So the global disruption is really a shaking. It's a shaking, right? So everything that can be shaken will be shaken. Everything that can be shaken is being shaken. And because the shaking has begun, the separation is underway. So in the new world that's emerging, there is a certain kind of people who will survive and thrive. There's a certain kind of people who will stand tall. They will stand out and they will stand firm. Now, I want someone in the chat box to write, that's me. I'm the one who's going to stand tall, stand out, and stand firm while the world is shaking. That's me. Bishop Wayne Malcolm is talking about me. I'm the one who's going to stand tall, stand out, and stand firm while the world is shaking. And if it sounds like I'm going to deal with doom and gloom, I'm not really. I'm actually going to take your mind off the doom and gloom, because the doom and gloom that the world is experiencing and will continue to experience is not designed to defeat you. Okay, it is designed to reveal you. Woo! It is actually designed to bring you out of the cave, put you on the stage, bring you out of hiding. It is actually designed to identify you as sons and citizens of the kingdom. So the Bible calls them the sons of the kingdom. And Jesus said in Matthew 13, verse 30, let both grow together until the harvest. So right now, some of you are hidden, some of you are obscure, some of you are overlooked, some of you are underestimated, some of you, there are people in your life that think you're irrelevant, insignificant. Perhaps you've been operating in the shades, in the shadows. I want you to know that your time has come and that God, by a very divine sequence of events, is going to bring you suddenly from the cave to the stage, from the pit to the palace, from the lion's den to a place of unprecedented power. God is about to do that. And if you know that a promotion is in your destiny and that a sudden promotion is in your destiny, I want you to write in the chat box, that's me he's talking about. I'm the one who's going to be very suddenly repositioned, revealed by God in this hour. This is so exciting. I've got to look at what you guys are saying. Yep, there's a lot of that's me. That's me. All right, it really is. It really is. I don't know why someone's pulling this piece out of me, right? But Joseph went from the pit to the palace in one day. In one day, he went from the guttermost to the uttermost in one day. And if I went through the Bible and showed you the power of the 24-hour turnaround, I just want you to know that when God has chosen you for promotion, there is no witch or wizard, there is no secret society, no government or agency that can prevent your sudden rise to an elite position in an industry, a sector, a sphere of influence. When God has chosen you for promotion, it will not take long to put you in position. How do I know this? Joseph is proof of this. Esther is proof of this. Moses is proof of this. Daniel is proof of this. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are proof of this. The apostles are proof of this. The Bible is filled with proofs that God can change your status overnight. What takes the time is changing your state. Woo! I wish I had some help in here. If God can successfully change your state, he can very quickly change your status. So what we focus on is changing our state of mind particularly, okay? Our spiritual state, our psychological state, our intellectual state, our skill set state. If God can change your state, it may take a while for God to change your state, but once he's changed your state, he can change your status overnight. I want someone to write in the chat box, my status will change overnight. My status will change overnight. This is deep. I'm going deep. I'm laying foundation because I'm going deep. My status will change overnight. See, I want you to walk into 2026 saying that my status will change overnight because my state is being transformed by God. Because my state is being transformed, it is a matter of time before my status is transformed. In other words, I will ascend from the guttermost to the uttermost. I will move from the pit to the palace. I am like Daniel, who was on death's row and rose to become the president of the princes of a pagan kingdom. Esther, her status was changed after her state was changed. and God is going to change your status overnight. Now, uh, let's just prove this a little bit more. So, Jesus taught that the end of the age would involve separation, not sameness. And some of the key parables and teachings include the wheat and the weeds. Well, what was the difference? The wheat had value, intrinsic value. The kernel of wheat has intrinsic value. It can be ground into flour, and the flour uh, can become bread, nutrition, sustenance, health. The wheat was a source of nourishment and it had intrinsic value. The weeds were useless, they were empty, they had no nutritional value, and their growth was deceptive. They were actually planted by the enemy in order to corrupt and pollute the harvest. And Jesus said, let them both grow together until the end of the age. The angels, and the word angel, the Greek word for angel is angelos, which means messenger. So a series of messages in the end are going to separate what has value, intrinsic value, from what is actually useless and empty and a vanity. It actually has no value. It's going to be a separation. What about the dragnet? You know, the parable of the net that brought in all kinds, right? But in the end, there was a separation. The fish that had value were kept, and the worthless ones were discarded. What about the wheat and the chaff? All right, the wheat and the chaff. John the Baptist taught that he will gather the wheat into his garner, but he will burn the chaff with unquenchable fire. Um, Psalms 1, my favorite psalm, talks about the blessed man who is planted by the rivers of water, bringing forth fruit in his season. It goes on to say that the ungodly are not so. They are like the chaff that the wind drives away. Well, what's the difference between wheat and chaff? So a lot of people don't know this. So I'm going to teach you the difference between wheat and chaff. So the actual value of the wheat is in the kernel of the wheat where the value is. But as the wheat grows, there is a stalk, there is no nutritional value in the stalk, and there is a paper thin husk around the kernel called the chaff. It has no nutritional value. So if you're going to convert the wheat into bread, you have to separate the wheat from the chaff. Woo! And what typically separated the wheat from the chaff was wind. So this is why Psalm 1 says they are like the chaff that the wind drives away. The chaff is driven away through a process called winnowing, which is exposing the wheat to wind. But because the wheat has substance, it has weight, it has value, it survives the wind. The chaff has no weight, has no value, and it is driven away by the wind. So these are prophecies of a separation at the end of the age. Now, I want to talk about the winds that are blowing, the winds of separation. Because in the winnowing process, you know, they would go up into a high place, take all the wheat into this big kind of basket and throw it up in the air, throw it up in the air. And as they throw it up in the air, the wind blows away the chaff, and what comes back down is the wheat. Why? Because the wheat has weight. Woo, the wheat has weight because it has substance, because it has nutritional value, because the value is in the kernel of the wheat. The chaff is driven away by the wind. And the wind is used biblically as a metaphor for many things, right? Life, breath itself is the wind is used that way, but it's also used as judgment. It's also used as judgment. You'll see this in Revelation 7. You'll see these four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding back the four winds. Then they're holding back these four winds so that the earth is not hurt while the servants of God are being sealed. Just act like you know, as Revelation 7. In other words, wind can be a metaphor for judgments. And in the modern world today, certainly in the decade of disruption, there are winds of adversity that are blowing through the earth. This is hostility towards your faith, and in many countries, persecution of the faith, right? So some of you know that I've just come back from Nigeria. I've been in Nigeria twice in the last 2 months, in Abuja and in Lagos. And as many of you are aware, that in the Middle Belt and in the North, many Christians have been killed. Right? There's a genocide going on, and there is hostility and aggression and persecution and tribulation and affliction. In other countries, Christian voices are canceled, or they're being silenced, or they're being ridiculed and mocked. This is a wind of adversity, right? A wind of adversity. But there are also the winds of economic uncertainty. Economic uncertainty. Now, I don't know what it's like in your country. I can just tell you what it's like in my country. The cost of living is rising. Real wages are falling. Government services are getting thinner and thinner. The safety net that was designed to prevent people falling into extreme poverty, that safety net is broken. Many people rely on food banks, rely on soup kitchens, are homeless. There is this wave of economic uncertainty. It's holding people back when it comes to investing. And there is growing disparity between the rich and the poor. So we're seeing this all over Europe. If you get a chance to look at any European news, right, there virtually isn't a country in Europe where there are not riots and demonstrations and protests. People are protesting on a weekly basis, and there are many of the protests evolve into riots, demonstrations, police having to break it up. That is happening because there is massive economic uncertainty. It's a wind. It's a wind. Okay. I want you to think of it as a wind, right? And then there's global disruption at the political level, like no one knows what's going to happen next, right? We've got Russia, Ukraine, we've got Israel, we've got what's going on in Venezuela, we've got there are things that are happening in Australia. Like the news headlines are not looking good, right? Everything, and it doesn't appear to us as though the people we elected to look after us are actually looking after us. So that's another wind. It's a wind, but it's not just in your country, it's in mine. It's everywhere. It's a wind blowing through the earth. And then the cultural pressure in terms of social norms, in which the center of moral gravity has moved to where what used to be considered moral, upright, good, and wholesome is now being taught in schools very differently. These are winds, okay? But you must understand biblically that the wind drives away the chaff. It does not drive away the wheat. The wind breaks or uproots what was never rooted, right? But if you're rooted, planted, and rooted, you may bend under the wind, but you will never break. So the winds do not destroy the rooted, they expose the unrooted. All of these things are simply going to expose people who have no roots. Now, can I talk for a minute about people who have no roots? Would that be okay? Let me check on you guys. Would it be okay if I talk about the people who have no roots? Because Jesus, when he taught the 7 mysteries of the kingdom in Matthew 13, 7 parables of the kingdom, the first parable was about the sower sowing the seed, which Jesus said is the word of the kingdom. Woo! The good seed is the word of the kingdom. So where is the word of the kingdom sown? Well, it's sown in our hearts through the ear gate. We hear the word, we receive it in our hearts. But he said there were four different types of ground, right? There is the wayside, right, where it never takes root. The birds take it away. There is shallow ground where it just doesn't allow for the gravitropical growth. The roots cannot grow beyond a certain space. And then there was stony ground. Okay. Sorry, there was the stony ground, the shallow ground. And then there were thorns, right? Sown among thorns, where the cares of this life, the deceitfulness of riches, and the lust of other things corrupt the word. What did those three grounds have in common? They simply did not allow the seed to take deep enough root. The good ground was good ground because it allowed for the gravitropical growth of the tree. Because trees grow in two directions. They grow towards the sun and they grow towards the earth. Towards the earth is gravitropical, growing with gravity, gravitropical growth. Towards the sun is phototropical, right? It's growing towards the sun. But it must grow down first before it can grow up. And its fruitfulness will depend on its rootfulness. Woo! Its fruitfulness will depend on its rootfulness. The problem with the root system is that we can't see it, right? And the problem with the fruit system is that we can see it. So way too many people are after fruits, not realizing that those fruits are entirely dependent on a root system. And so you have to be rooted if you're going to be fruitful. And if your fruit is going to remain, if you're going to bring forth fruit in your season, and if everything you do is going to prosper, that will be the reflection of a root system. And if we're not willing to grow down, we are not going to be able to grow up. So these winds, whether it's persecution and hostility, economic uncertainty, political corruption, and cultural pressures, these winds are designed to reveal the rooted. They are not designed to uproot the rooted. They're designed to expose what is not rooted, because all they're going to drive away is what is not rooted. Everybody in the chat box say 2026 is my year of root systems. Root systems. Root systems. It is such a mistake to obsess about the fruit at the expense of the root. Your roots are your convictions, your deeply held convictions about your identity, who you are, whose you are, why you're here. Your root is your revelation of Him, His kingdom, His purpose, His power, His glory. It's a root system. And those roots grow deep until look, you may not know lots of things, right? But there are some things you know. And you know who you are, and you know whose you are, and you know Him, and you know His kingdom. You know His vision, you know His values. These things grow deep inside of you, and they make you totally unstoppable. And some of you have heard my song, Totally Unstoppable. If you haven't heard my song, Totally Unstoppable, you need to hear my song, Totally Unstoppable, because that's who's totally unstoppable. Rooted people. So crisis functions like a spiritual winnowing. Adversity reveals. It reveals, and you all know this to be true. Adversity reveals. I mean, someone said it to me this way once: if you squeeze a lemon, what comes out is lemon juice. What comes out is what was inside the lemon if you squeeze the lemon. And when you squeeze a believer, what comes out of them is these beliefs, because they are believer, because they hold beliefs inside of themselves. That's what makes them a believer. You know, what church you attend doesn't make you a believer. Okay? Your position and rank in the church that you attend doesn't make you a believer. We'll never know you are a believer till you're squeezed. When you're squeezed, we'll know what was inside. So adversity reveals what we truly believe. It reveals what actually governs our decisions, whether it is principles that govern our decisions, or whether it's opportunity that governs our decisions. Adversity reveals that. Adversity reveals where your loyalties lie. Vanity, on the other hand, is very loud. It's very visible, but it is empty. It is weightless. Value endures pressure, remains when applause disappears, and it carries substance. 1 Corinthians 3 verse 13 says, everyone's work will become clear. Again, it's a prophecy of the separation. That actually, now I'm gonna say this, right? I'm gonna say this. When the pandemic happened, right, and we were locked down in virtually every nation of the world, okay, some people through desperation came to faith and tried to hold on to something because we needed something to hold on to. But there were a lot of people who were churchgoers, right, who were churchy people, who actually lost their faith and came out of the pandemic uncertain about their faith and have never found it again since. It's like they were just scattered. Okay. The economic pandemic had the same effect. And I'm not going to name names, but obviously I know a lot of pastors of very large churches. Very few churches regained their attendance that they had pre the pandemic, right? And some huge auditoriums have not achieved 50% occupancy since. Why? Something shook. Something just shook. But what the shaking did, it just exposed and revealed, right? It didn't make anyone uncertain. It revealed the uncertainty that was there. It didn't make anyone unfaithful. It revealed the unfaithfulness that was there. It didn't make it, it exposed. And God allows winds to reveal, to expose what is rooted, what cannot be shaken. And I want to switch quickly into what cannot be shaken, right? So, kingdom citizens versus religious robots. All religious robots are going to be shaken in this decade of disruption. What do I mean by religious robots? I mean that the factory school system was made compulsory in order to mass produce workers for the new industries. And so the industries and the schools worked together for the mass production of voluntary slave labor. If you trace the history of the compulsory state education, it was called the factory school system because it was a factory. You sent your children in. Your creative children, like raw materials into the factory. And after a few years, they came out convinced that the only way they could make a living or a life was to volunteer as a wage slave to an employer, right? So they came out without any financial skills. They came out without any leadership skills. They came out without any real knowledge of what would give them a real opportunity. Instead, they came out submissive, passive, obedient, voluntary wage slaves. That's what the factory school system did. Well, there's a factory church system. Yeah, I said it. There's a factory church system. And people go into it with every good intention. But in the end, We all come out looking the same, sounding the same, doing the same, and actually detaching more and more from the world and society, um, and instead instead just hoping for an imminent evacuation from the world. So this is kind of robotic, right? Anything that stifles your creativity, that takes your energy, your appetite for life and living, your appetite for contribution and for creation, it is making you into a robot, right? And there's a big difference between religion and the kingdom. Is the biggest enemies of Jesus' kingdom message were the religious elite and people, because there's a big difference between a kingdom citizen and a religious robot. God promises a final shaking, not to destroy everything, but to remove what is shakeable. Hebrews 12:26-28. Yet once more, I shake not only the earth, but also heaven, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Now, there are two kinds of people emerging. There are the kingdom citizens, right? Kingdom citizens. And when I say that they're citizens, here's what I mean. I mean, they are sons of the kingdom, and that's an idiomatic way of saying they embody the vision and the values of the kingdom. They are stewards in that they are made to manage resources and aspects of God's work, right? They are managers of God's business on earth. They are sovereigns because they are kings, because the kingdom of God is not a kingdom of subjects and slaves. It's a kingdom of kings. Everyone in the kingdom, every citizen in the kingdom is a king, which means every citizen in the kingdom has a domain, has a God-appointed domain. That domain is a realm of responsibility that you've been given. So every kingdom citizen has responsibility to govern a realm. Now, that may be a social economic realm. It's not limited to geopolitical realms, but you are called to be a sovereign or the king of a thing, the queen of a scene, the ruler of a realm, the master of a craft, the best in that business. You're called to be that. And this is why the evacuation, escapist mentality of religious robots actually robs the world of the very hope the world has. The only hope the world has is the manifest sons of God. Like nothing's going to change until the sons come out of hiding. Nothing's going to change until believers become leaders in civic life, in finance and commerce and trade, in arts, entertainment, science. I mean, until believers become leaders in all the spheres of social influence or up on all the mountains of culture, until believers become leaders, nothing changes. City of London's not going to change. City of Sydney's not going to change. Brisbane's not going to change. Cape Town's not going to change. Joburg's not going to change. Lagos, Abuja's not going to change. New York, LA, Atlanta, Washington, Miami, nothing is going to change until the believers migrate from the cave to the stage, come out of hiding, and manifest their sonship as leadership in spheres of influence, in sectors of industry, in institutions. And that's why your calling is uncommon. Your aspirations are uncommon. You're not going to get validated, celebrated, or affirmed in some religious corners, but in a kingdom community, you're going to be affirmed and celebrated because we know that that's what the world is waiting for. And again, if you don't have your kingdom theology right, you won't realize that Jesus is called the firstborn among many brethren. the firstborn among many brethren. What does that mean? He means I am the beginning of a new breed. I am the beginning of a new type of person. I am the beginning. I am the prototype for the citizens that will emerge, that will be born into the kingdom. Now, think about this with me for a minute. Jesus said, except a grain of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abides alone. But if it dies, it brings forth much fruit. Well, what fruit, right? If a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, all it will bring forth is more wheat, more of itself, more of its kind. We see this in the Genesis. Every fruit possessed a seed capable of reproducing after its kind. Every animal um, possessed seed capable of reproducing after its kind. What was Adam? Adam was not animal kind. He was in another class. It was the God class, the God kind. What Jesus was doing is he was birthing a new breed of people. And these people, right, are kingdom citizens. They are sons, they are stewards, they are sovereigns, and and the hope of the world is the manifestation of these sons. Woo! Did I mean to do all that? I need to check if y'all still here. Woo! Okay. Are y'all still here? Y'all hearing this, right? This is the kingdom vision, right? The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. This is the vision. Go into all the world, preach the gospel to every creature, to all creation. This is the vision. He would repopulate the earth with kingdom citizens and bring the earth and its resources under the stewardship of kingdom citizens. I'm telling you that kingdom citizens are going to become phenomenally rich, phenomenally wealthy, phenomenally resourceful, phenomenally influential. Our leadership will be 10 times better than any other kind of leadership. Or where did you get that, Bishop? I got that from Daniel chapter 1. I got that from the book of Daniel that says that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were inspected by the king, and the king found that they were 10 times better than everyone else at their job. God is raising up a breed of people who are simply going to lead. And you will lead at an executive level, some of you. Some of you are going to lead by example, and others are going to lead as thought leaders. But until the believers become leaders, nothing changes. And when I say the believers becoming leaders, I'm not talking about people who say they believe or who were born into a Christian house or call themselves Christian. I mean the people that have real faith in the finished work of Christ and real faith in the power of a living God and real faith in the message, the mission, the ministry, and the methods of Christ. You have real faith like that. Those believers need to become leaders. Okay. I've kind of said a lot about that, but I'm gonna unpack a mystery right now. If you can handle a mystery, if you can handle this mystery, you're great. Okay. So here's the mystery. And can I be honest? Can I disclose a little bit of my past with you? Right. And can I tell you that in the early stages of my ministry, I was obsessed with end time prophecy. And I had been schooled by teachers of end time prophecy. And I read every book that came out about end time prophecy. Not only did I read every book, I subscribed to every publication that would vindicate this. So um, whether it was The Economist, whether it was the Jerusalem Post, I was a subscriber to all of these. I traveled and interviewed people leaders, teachers, preachers, politicians, governmental officials. I interviewed them because I wanted to understand the end times. I became a great teacher of the end times, of the signs of the times. Published a magazine on the signs of the times. Had a TV program all about the signs of the times. I was absolutely obsessed with end time prophecy. And anyone that's known me for, let's say, 30 plus years will remember the days when all he preached about was the soon coming of the Lord and all the signs of the times stacking up and lining up. And of course, Matthew 24 is an important chapter for understanding the end of the age. Now, um, Matthew 24, in Matthew 24, Jesus was asked, what will be the sign of your coming and the sign of the end of the age? He was actually asked, when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? These things is that Jesus predicted the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. He said there's going to be not one stone left upon another. It's going to be destroyed. The temple in Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. And they said, tell us, when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? So Jesus begins to give these signs of the times. Now, I'm going to show you a mystery. Everything that I taught was a sign of the end, the sign of the second coming, the sign of Jesus' return. Jesus specifically in the passage said it was not a sign of that. Now, that's deep. So he said, look, take heed that no man deceive you, for many will come in my name saying, I am Christ, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for the end is not yet. What? Hold on. We would say, oh, there's wars, rumors of wars. It's a sign of the end. Jesus said, no, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for the end is not yet. In other words, that is not the sign of the end. That may be the sign of an end, but that's not the sign of the end of the age. Not. He said, there'll be famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places. See that you be not troubled, for all these are the beginning of sorrows. What? I was teaching everyone that was the end. He said, no. He said, no, it's the beginning. The beginning of what? Sorrows. What is sorrows? The Greek word sorrows, translated sorrows there, literally means birth pains. These are the beginnings of birth pains. Well, what are birth pains? They are contractions. They are contractions, right? And we know what happens with contractions is they increase in frequency and intensity as you approach the time of birth. You approach the time of what? Birth. So they are signs to a mother that the child is about to appear. They're signs to the mother that this thing I've been carrying, this person I've been carrying, is about to appear. And the contractions increase in frequency and intensity as you approach that time. Now, here's my point. Jesus was saying, listen, when you see these things happen, think of them as contractions. Don't get nervous like the world. Don't get worried like the world. Don't start thinking doom, gloom. It's the end. Oh my gosh, this war's breaking out here. There's a war over there. There's wars everywhere. There's famines, there's pestilence, there's earthquakes, there's false Christ. There's nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. All these things. Oh, it's the end. He said, no, think of them as contractions, birth pains, right? And listen, when a mother is expecting the child, the contractions are painful, right? But she's able to endure them because she's focusing on what she's bringing forth. She's focusing in what she is delivering into the world. Her focus is different. That's why she can endure it. If there was nothing to deliver, no one could endure the pain of contractions. And let me tell you why you and I can endure some of the news headlines, all the contractions. The reason we can endure it is because we are not focused on the pain. We're focused on the promise. Woo! We're not focused on the birth pains. We're focused on what is about to be born. See, there's two kinds of people. There are those that are focused on the contraction, and there are others that are focused on the kingdom. There are those that are focused on the pain, and then there are those who are focused on the promise or the purpose. There's purpose in this pain. Something is about to happen. Something's about to be born. There is a shift that is about to take place. Something good is about to happen. What? What did Bishop Wayne just say? How could he say this, knowing that there's political winds blowing, there's economic winds blowing, there's cultural and social winds blowing, there's persecution winds blowing, and he gets on a webinar to say something good is about to happen? Yeah, I said it. And those of you that heard it in at a spiritual level, write it in the chat box. Something good is about to happen. Something very good is about to happen. Because something real good is about to happen. Then I'm gonna show this to you, because everything we thought was a sign of the end, Jesus very specifically said the end is not yet. These are the beginnings of birth pains. He's shifting your focus. By saying that, he's shifting your focus. So you're not focused on wars and rumors of wars and famines and pestilence and earthquakes and nation against nation and false Christ. You're not focused on that. You're focused on what's about to be born, on the promise, on the kingdom. Now look at this, Matthew 24:14. This is the mystery. This gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all nations, and then the end will come. Now, you can read this in any translation you want. The only sign of the end that Jesus actually gives in Matthew 24 is the worldwide proclamation of the gospel of the kingdom and the witness to all nations. Now, as a witness to every nation, and every nation, by the way, is not limited to geopolitical groups. The Greek word is ethne. Ethne. From ethne, we get the English ethnic or ethnicity, but the original ethne was any subgroup, any group, any grouping of humanity was a nation. So there are political ethnes, there are commercial ethnes, there are social and cultural ethnes, there are businesses, brands, industries, institutions, sectors, and spheres that are all ethnes. According to this, these ethnes will be left without excuse because of the kingdom, the gospel of the kingdom. Now, I want you to notice this, because here's the mystery. I want you to notice this. This gospel of the kingdom will be preached. Oh, who are these people? Who are these people preaching good news in the midst of such bad news? Who are these people? Because the gospel, which the word gospel means good news, so the good news of the kingdom will be preached clearly by someone or by some people, and they'll preach it everywhere, and it will leave every ethne without excuse. So what is this saying? The real sign of the end of the age is the rise of a people. It is the emergence of a people. I tried to say this at the beginning. I'm going to make it clear at the end. There is a people rising. There is a spiritual migration taking place from the cave to the stage. For the first time in church history, believers are setting their sights on mountains of culture. Believers are setting their sights on roles in industry, in institutions, in government, in civic life, in the arts, in entertainment, in film and fashion. Believers are setting their sights on the world, which is the cosmos, the cosmetic or the arrangement or all the systems of the world. So this good news is going to be preached in all the systems of the world, and it will leave every ethne without excuse. Who are these people that are preaching good news in the face of such bad news? These are the sons of the kingdom. These are the manifest sons. Now, kingdom citizens preach good news, not doom. We carry hope in times of chaos. We don't react to crisis because we are carriers of hope. Because we interpret wars, famines, pestilence, and earthquakes as birth pains and contractions. And so, as painful as they are, they're just proof that the promise is nearer. Woo! And so I'm going to start to close with this. I'm going to say that the sons of the kingdom are weighty. We have weight, right? And weight in this, do you know the word glory in the scriptures actually means weighty, heavy. And the reason I say we have weight, because the reason why the wheat is not blown away by the wind, that the chaff is blown away, is because the wheat actually has weight. And believers are not blown away by winds of adversity, by the winds of the economy, by the winds of confused politics, by the winds of we're not blown away because we have weight, right? We have gravitas. There's a word that has taken root inside of us. And because that word has taken root inside of us, we are not blown away. So my challenge to you in 2026 is to choose a side. Because this spiritual migration is taking place, right? This new breed is emerging everywhere. Everywhere I go, every country I have been to, I see this new breed rising. I see the kingdom people. I see them very different to the religious people. I see the kingdom people. In doctrine, we are the same. The fundamentals of the doctrine of Christ, we are the same. Okay? But in psychology, in missionology, in vision, in values, kingdom people are different to religious people. Religious people are trying to get out of the world. Kingdom people are trying to get into it. Religious people want to change the world by imposition. Kingdom people want to change the world by influence. I don't want to impose my values on you, but I want to influence you in such a way that you want to take on my values. There's a difference with kingdom people. Religious people are desperately trying to get to heaven. Kingdom people are trying to bring heaven to earth. There's a distinction that is taking place, a separation, and I'm seeing them all over the world. My challenge to you is to get rooted in the kingdom. Get rooted in your understanding of the kingdom, the original message, mission, ministry, and methods of Christ. Get rooted and grounded in your identity as a kingdom citizen, right? As a son, steward, and sovereign in the kingdom.
Hey, I'm Bishop Wayne Malcolm, author, coach, and founder of the Epic Kingdom Network. If you've ever felt like something's missing in what you've been taught about Christianity, you're not wrong. Most of us were taught that heaven and the hereafter are the goal, prize, and sole objective of the faith. But the original message of Christ taught us to engage, to influence, and to transform the world. Believe it or not, Jesus didn't die to get us into heaven. He died to get heaven into us, and then through us into the earth. What if I told you that Christianity was never meant to be a religion, but rather a relationship and a global revolution, a divine intervention, not a man-made institution? The original message and mission of Christ was hijacked, diluted, distorted, and replaced with a religion. My new ebook, Kingdom Theology for Kingdom Citizens, is not just another devotional, it's a call to action. A bold reintroduction to the original message of Christ, a message of dominion, not escapism, of transformation, not tradition. You'll learn what it means to rule and reign with Christ, to steward wealth with purpose, to influence government, education, culture, and business as an ambassador of heaven. This book will shift your lens, stir your spirit, and set you on course with divine clarity. And right now, for a limited time, I'm giving you free access to the digital and audiobook versions. No cost, no catch. Just click the link in the description, grab your copy, and step into clarity.
Hey there, entrepreneurs! If you enjoy the teachings of Bishop Wayne Malcolm, I've got something amazing for you. Introducing the New Breed Community, an exclusive online platform for kingdom-conscious entrepreneurs, professionals, investors, and creators. This isn't just a community, it's a movement where we discuss and explore kingdom concepts. Here, kingdom-minded people connect, share, learn, and grow together. Inside, you'll find exclusive content from Bishop Wayne Malcolm, including special sessions just for members. And the best part? It's free to join. The New Breed Community sits on the Heartbeat platform, where Bishop Wayne Malcolm is excited to meet you online. Join us for weekly Q&A sessions with Bishop Wayne, and get exclusive insights that can transform your life. Love to read? Join our book club to feed your mind and spirit. Got a prayer request? Post it and let's lift each other up. Have a testimony? Share how God's goodness is shining in your life. We're more than just a community, we're a movement. Discover the powerful relationship between your profession and your purpose. Join us now on the Heartbeat platform. Connect with us and let's grow together. Bishop Wayne Malcolm and the New Breed Community are waiting for you. So what are you waiting for? Hit that join button and step into a world of connection and growth. A warm welcome awaits you. See you on the inside.